Thank you for joining us for this special report on News Center Maine. I'm Brian Iacono.
And I'm Amanda Hill. We are following a deadly plane crash earlier today in Avon, where officials confirmed the death of one game warden. The FAA tells us the plane that crashed was a Cessna 185F.
The Maine Warden Service says this crash happened near Schoolhouse Pond. One person was on board at the time of that crash. We want to go now to a live press conference you see right here in Augusta, where we do expect to learn more.
Josh's family, his mother, father, his children, his entire extended family. These tragedies touch us all, and with that, I'd like to introduce Governor Mills. I spent the morning with Governor Mills at the Law Enforcement Memorial and never expected we'd be with each other again this afternoon, Governor. I appreciate your support at a time like this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, we were all together just a few hours ago, putting another name on the monument, the Law Enforcement Memorial, and at that very time, little did we know, at about 11 o'clock this morning, a Maine Warden Service plane crashed in Avon, Maine, near Schoolhouse Pond. Some of us are familiar with that area. Franklin County Sheriff's deputies and County Emergency Services personnel responded to the scene and confirmed that Game Warden pilot Joshua Tibbetts had been killed in the crash, and his remains are now been received at the medical examiner's office in Augusta. Warden Tibbetts was a 50-year-old father who began his career with the IF&W in 2008, serving as an instrumental part of the department's law enforcement and search and rescue efforts. And so on behalf of all Maine people, I'm here to express my deep gratitude for the swift response and for the continued service of emergency personnel and investigators who are still on the scene. I will let Acting Commissioner Tim Peabody answer questions about the investigation into the crash, which is in its very early stages, of course. But I do want to express my profound sadness for Warden Tibbetts' loved ones who got that call today, a call that no family should ever have to receive. And sadly, as I said, this crash occurred as we were gathered at the Law Enforcement Memorial to honor 91 fallen law enforcement officers and the men and women in uniform who are today upholding the rule of law that those officers gave their lives for. Many of the names on that memorial up the road here, more than any other branch of government, branch of law enforcement, more than any others on that memorial, they're members of the Maine Warden Service. We don't recognize fully how much they put themselves at risk every day, what dangerous situations they put themselves in on our behalf. The hardworking men and women of the Warden Service are guardians of our outdoor heritage. They're preserving the woods and waters and wildlife of Maine, and they're protecting hundreds of thousands of people as people explore the wilderness and experience the wonders of our state. Like law enforcement across the state, they put their lives on the line every day to protect public safety. But knowing the dangers of the job does not prepare you for the immeasurable pain of the sudden loss of a friend on duty. I ask all Maine people to hold the Warden Service in our hearts as we all grieve the loss of their colleague, and to express our deepest condolences to Warden Tibbetts' family and friends who are enduring an unimaginable sorrow, and to recognize the risks that law enforcement take when they show up for work each day to protect the public safety and to keep this state the best place in the nation, the safest place in the nation to live, work, and raise a family. The Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife and the Warden Service will be assisting the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board with the investigation, and they will release additional information as they are able to confirm it. But may we, in the meantime, all honor Warden Tibbetts' memory and offer our comfort and solace to those across Maine now mourning him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. We'll introduce Colonel Dan Scott of the Maine Warden Service to provide some more details from his perspective as leader of the Maine Warden Service, Colonel Scott.
Good afternoon. I would like to express first my extreme condolences to Pilot Tibbetts' family, as well as all of his friends and members of my staff. Today's crash is an absolute tragedy which will permanently change the lives of so many people forever. Josh is a dedicated veteran of the Maine Warden Service who has put himself in harm's way many times to protect the people of the state of Maine, as well as our natural resources. Today's incident is a somber reminder that the daily job of Maine game wardens, as well as all of our first responders, is perilous and full of uncertainty. We have been in communication with the FAA as well as the NTSB and will be assisting them with their investigation over the upcoming days. I would like to thank the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the Maine State Police, the Maine Forest Service, and the Strong and Phillips Fire Department for their assistance on scene with this tragic incident this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Scott. I'll take some questions between Colonel Scott and myself. Again, this investigation is just hours old. The FAA and National Transportation Safety Board are not on scene yet, so we'll field some questions, but we may be very limited in what we can actually provide to you at this point. So.
It appears from radar that he came down from the Phillips area, seemed to loop back around. Was there any indication there was a medical emergency or mechanical issue that you guys are aware of right now?
Yeah, not that we're aware of right now. Warden pilots have, a lot of missions where they're flying, they're not a straight flight. They're circling, looking, that type.
Is that description of what I just said, is that something you're aware of? Can you confirm that or?
Yeah, Colonel Scott, if you want to.
Yeah, we are aware of Pilot Tibbetts' communication today of what his plan was for the day, and that does not surprise us that he was circling and looking over the area.
So what was his plan for the day? What was he doing at the time of the crash?
So he was in the process of working with folks from our Bureau of Fisheries to stock fish in the western part of the state and a number of lakes and ponds over there.
Is it typical for pilots to fly without a co-pilot?
Yes, absolutely. Most of the time they're on their own.
Other questions?
Was there any distress signals sent out by the pilot before the crash?
Nothing that we're aware of prior to the crash. The planes do have an automatic signal that they send out if they were involved in the crash, and that system did work, and that's what notified the dispatch center.
Yes.
There was another warden plane kind of overhead after the accident happened. Can you explain that protocol, and is it, to wait for other law enforcement to arrive to investigate?
Sure. Once we received the call from the State Police Dispatch Center that they had gotten that crash notification, we immediately dispatched our other planes to see if we could locate the crash site. That's just typical, to see if we could find if anybody's there and see if we could see any signs of people in distress. Or the plane is located in an area there's no immediate roads nearby, and so the best way to locate it was from the air. So both our own aircraft as well as the Maine Forest Service helicopters assisted us in that effort.
There were a few mountains in the area. I mean, what does the area he crashed in kind of look like? What was the topography?
It's western Maine, over near the Rangeley area, so we all know those are the foothills, those are the mountainous areas, but it's typical topography that our pilots fly in, for sure. But the FAA and the NTSB will be looking into all the activities of the plane immediately leading up to the crash, for sure.
And springboarding off of that, you said that the investigation is only hours old, obviously. Can you kind of walk us through what some of the things they'll be looking for, looking at, and how that will determine the cause of the crash at all?
All I can tell you, because we don't investigate plane crashes, is that I've been in contact with the FAA. They're responding there tonight because they're local folks from the Maine area, and the actual investigation is coordinated by the NTSB, and those folks are actually coming up out of Florida and will be here tomorrow. And so those two agencies will coordinate that investigation. And no, I can't tell you what they're looking for.
Other questions quickly? Not, we really appreciate you coming. Governor, we appreciate your support and your condolences for the warden service.
Thank you all.
Thanks again.
Well, you just heard there from Governor Mills and leaders with the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Again, want to let you know that Game Warden Joshua Tibbetts was killed when his plane crashed in the woods of Avon this morning. He was the only person on board.
Be going over more details from that crash scene. He's been in Avon throughout the afternoon. Again, just getting this new information from the governor and the warden service about this death and this plane crash moments ago. We will have much more on the crash from both Augusta and from Avon coming up on News Center Maine at 4 in just a few minutes. We'll see you then.